5 years had passed since the referendum. Katie stood in the Galactic Council chamber once again, but this time she wasn't there to issue a challenge. She was there as the official representative of the Voth Prime Federation, a group of 4 Vothar worlds that had followed Voth Prime's example and adopted human-style democratic governance. The chamber looked different now. The Bloodscale clan's seats were mostly empty. After losing Voth Prime and 3 other worlds, the clan had collapsed. Some of its members had joined other clans. Some had retired in shame. Warlord Kresh himself had died, his name forever marked with dishonor. Katie walked to her seat among the council representatives. She was 30 years old now. No longer the young woman who had nervously presented evidence against a warlord. She was a respected voice in galactic politics, someone other species listened to when she spoke. But today, she wasn't speaking. She was listening. A delegation from a Vothar world called Draxnor had come to petition for reform. Their world was ruled by the Iron Crest clan, and while Commander Voth had been more reasonable than most clan leaders, the people still wanted change. They wanted to vote for their leaders like Voth Prime did. Katie watched as the young Vothar representative made his case. He was nervous, just like she had been years ago, but he was brave. He presented evidence of corruption, of unfair laws, of people suffering under a system that didn't serve them. Commander Voth listened carefully. He was old now, his scales fading with age. When the Vothar representative finished, Voth spoke. "I have watched the Voth Prime Federation for 5 years," Voth said. "I have seen their economy grow. I have seen their people prosper. I have seen corruption decrease and happiness increase. The evidence is clear that democratic reform works." The chamber went silent. This was huge. Commander Voth was one of the most traditional Vothar leaders. If he supported reform, it would change everything. Therefore, Voth continued, "I will not oppose this petition. If the people of Draxnor wish to vote for their government, I will allow it. But I make one condition." Everyone waited. "I will run in that election," Voth said. "I believe I have governed fairly. Let the people decide if that is true. If they choose someone else, I will step down with honor. But I will not simply surrender power. I will earn the right to keep it." Katie smiled. That was smart. Voth was acknowledging change while also giving himself a chance to stay in power. And honestly, he might win. He had been a better leader than most. After the council session, Katie found her father in an observation lounge. Jacob was 77 now, his hair completely white, but his mind was still sharp. "That went well," Jacob said as Katie sat down beside him. "Better than I expected. If Voth allows democratic elections on his worlds, the other clans will have to follow. The whole Vothar Empire is going to transform." "And it all started with 37 people in a storm shelter," Jacob said quietly. Katie took her father's hand. "Dad, I want to go home." Jacob looked at her in surprise. "To New Montana?" "Yes, I've been away for 12 years. I've done what I needed to do here. Voth Prime has stable governance now. The Federation is running well. It's time for the next generation to take over. I want to go home to the village." Jacob smiled. "Linda will be happy. She's been asking when you'll visit for years. Not visit, stay. I'm tired, Dad. I want to live somewhere quiet. I want to see the place where this all started." They left Voth Prime a month later. Katie appointed Danny as her successor. He had earned it. He knew Vothar law better than anyone and had proven himself as a fair administrator. The Vothar people trusted him. The journey back to New Montana took 2 weeks. When their ship finally entered orbit, Katie felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. New Greenfield looked almost the same. The village had grown some, maybe 100 people now. But it was still small, still quiet. The houses were simple. The farms were modest. It was everything Kreshitar wasn't. Linda was waiting at the landing pad. She was in her 70s too, but she still stood straight and strong. She hugged Katie for a long time without saying anything. Ben had come home years earlier. He was married now with 2 children. He ran a farm on the edge of the village. Pete and Amy had stayed on Voth Prime, but they sent messages regularly. That night, the village held a gathering. Everyone came, including some of the children who had been born after the massacre. They sat around a fire and talked about old times. "Tell us about the trial," one of the young people asked Katie. "Tell us how you beat the warlord." Katie started to tell the story, but her father interrupted. It wasn't just Katie, Jacob said. It was all of us. Every person in this village played a part. Some gathered information. Some studied law. Some raised children who would carry on the work. We did it together. He looked around at the faces in the firelight. That's what I want you all to remember. We were just farmers. We had no weapons, no ships, no power. But we had each other and we had patience and we refused to give up. That's what made the difference. An older woman named Claire, one of the original 37 survivors, spoke up. I think about the people we lost sometimes. All those folks who died in Greenfield. Do you think they would be proud of what we did? The fire crackled in the silence that followed. I think, Katie said slowly, that they would be amazed. We turned their deaths into something that changed the galaxy. We didn't just get revenge. We created something better. That has to mean something. Jacob nodded. We can't bring them back. But we made sure their deaths weren't meaningless. That's the best we could do. The gathering broke up late. Katie walked with her parents back to their house. It was the same house they had lived in before, rebuilt on the same spot. Linda had kept Katie's old room exactly as it had been. Katie lay in her childhood bed and looked at the ceiling. She had slept in fancy rooms on a dozen worlds. She had governed a planet of millions. But this simple room felt more like home than anywhere else. The next morning, Katie started a new routine. She worked on the farm with Ben. She helped teach at the village school. She lived a quiet life, but she also wrote. She spent hours each day documenting everything that had happened. The massacre, the preparation, the trial, the governance of Voth Prime. She wrote it all down in simple language so that anyone could understand. Why are you doing that? Linda asked one day. Because other people need to know this story, Katie said. Not just the dramatic parts. The hard parts too. The years of patient work. The times we wanted to give up. The small victories that led to big changes. Other species facing injustice need to know that it's possible to fight back, even when you're weak. The book took her 2 years to write. When it was finished, she sent it to publishers across the galaxy. It became one of the most widely read books in known space. Millions of beings read about the village that had defeated an empire with law books instead of weapons. Reform movements started on other worlds, inspired by the story. Not just Vothar worlds, but planets ruled by other species too. Everywhere, people who had thought change was impossible started to believe it could happen. 10 years after returning to New Montana, Katie received a message. It was from the Galactic Council. They wanted to give her an award for her contributions to galactic peace and justice. She didn't go to the ceremony. She sent a message instead. The real heroes are the people who died in Greenfield, her message said. I just tried to make their deaths mean something. If you want to honor anyone, honor them. Remember that even the smallest community matters. Remember that justice is worth fighting for, even when it takes decades. And remember that sometimes the best revenge is building something better. Jacob died peacefully in his sleep at age 85. The whole village came to his funeral. So did representatives from Voth Prime, and from the other Federation worlds, and from species across the galaxy who had heard his story. Katie spoke at the service. My father taught me that survival isn't enough. You have to do something with that survival. You have to make it matter. He took the worst day of his life and spent the rest of his years making sure it led to something good. That's the legacy he leaves us. Linda lived another 5 years after Jacob. On her last day, she held Katie's hand and smiled. We did good, Linda whispered. All of us. We took something broken and made it beautiful. Katie stayed in New Greenfield for the rest of her life. She never returned to Voth Prime, though Danny came to visit her regularly. She watched as the reforms spread across Vothar space and beyond. She saw the clan system gradually transform into something more democratic. Sometimes young people would come to New Montana to meet her. Students studying government, journalists writing stories, activists looking for inspiration. She would invite them to sit on her porch and tell them the truth. It wasn't quick, she would say. It wasn't easy. There were times we wanted to quit. Times when it seemed impossible. But we kept going because we had to. Because giving up would mean those deaths were for nothing. She would point toward the hills where old Greenfield had stood. The Vothar shrine was gone now. In its place was a memorial, a simple stone marker listing the names of the 203 people who had died. They were just regular people, Katie would say. Farmers, teachers, shopkeepers. They didn't want to be heroes or change the galaxy. They just wanted to live their lives in peace. B. The facility beneath the Rocky Mountains had been abandoned for 90 years. Dr. Lisa Monroe walked through corridors that smelled of dust and old metal. Emergency lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows on walls covered with warning signs. Danger. Authorized personnel only. Biological hazard. The signs from another age, another war, another time when humanity had played with fire. Lisa stopped at a massive steel door. She pressed her hand against the scanner. The door groaned and slowly opened, revealing a laboratory that looked like something from a nightmare. Rows of medical pods lined the walls. Machines designed to rewrite human DNA sat waiting. Computers that could map a person's brain down to the last neuron hummed quietly in standby mode. This was where they had created the super soldiers during the Unity Wars. Enhanced humans with incredible strength, speed and reflexes, weapons in human form. Most had gone insane within a year. The few who survived had been locked away when the war ended. The technology was deemed too dangerous to ever use again, until now. Lisa walked between the pods, checking each one. Her team had spent months bringing this place back online, testing the equipment, updating the procedures, trying to fix the mistakes of the past. The psychological breakdown was the biggest problem. The enhancements changed more than just the body. They changed how people thought, how they felt, how they saw the world. Most couldn't handle it, but Lisa had new ideas. New treatments. New ways to stabilize the mind while enhancing the body. She thought they might work. She hoped they would work. She prayed they would work. Because if they didn't, she would be creating monsters who couldn't tell friend from enemy. The first volunteers arrived 3 days later. 200 soldiers who had signed away their humanity for a chance at revenge. Lisa watched them file into the facility. They looked tired, worn down by 3 years of losing, but their eyes burned with determination. Captain Ryan Bell was first in line. Lisa had read his file. 32 years old. Decorated officer. Lost everything at Mars Colony. No family left. No home to return to. Nothing but rage and a desire to hurt the aliens who had hurt him. Captain Bell, Lisa said, "Do you understand what you're volunteering for?" "Yes, ma'am," Ryan said. His voice was steady. "You're going to change me. Make me stronger, faster, better at killing." "That's the simple version," Lisa said. "The complex version is that we're going to rewrite your DNA. Enhance your muscles, your reflexes, your sensory systems. Your brain will process information faster. Your body will heal from injuries that would kill a normal person. But there are risks. Like going crazy," Ryan said. "Yes," Lisa admitted. The Unity War subjects, many of them lost their minds. The enhancements changed how they thought, how they felt. Some became unable to relate to normal humans. Others lost all empathy. A few became sociopaths who enjoyed killing. "And if that happens to me," Ryan asked, "we'll monitor you closely. At the first sign of breakdown, we can reverse some of the procedures. But the longer you're enhanced, the harder reversal becomes. Eventually, the changes become permanent." Ryan nodded slowly. "How long do I have? Before it's permanent?" "We don't know," Lisa said honestly. "Maybe a year. Maybe 5. Maybe it never becomes permanent. Every person is different." "What's the success rate?" Lisa hesitated. During the Unity Wars, 30% of subjects maintained psychological stability for more than a year. 30%, Ryan repeated. He looked at the pods, at the machines, at the technology that would remake him. Better odds than facing the Krell with normal weapons. "When do we start?" "Tomorrow morning," Lisa said. "Tonight, get some rest. Say goodbye to who you are, because tomorrow you become something else." That night, Ryan sat in his quarters and thought about his life, his childhood in New Seattle, his parents who raised him to believe in justice and protecting the innocent, his academy days full of hope and dreams, his first command, the friends he had lost, the family who died screaming as Mars burned. He wondered who he would be after the procedures. Would he still remember these things? Would he still care? Or would the enhancements strip away everything that made him Ryan Bell and leave only a weapon behind? He decided it didn't matter. The Krell had taken his world. They had killed everyone he loved. If becoming a monster was the price of revenge, he would pay it gladly. The procedure took 12 hours. Ryan lay in the pod while machines injected modified viruses into his bloodstream. The viruses carried new genetic code, instructions that would rewrite his DNA cell by cell. Nanobots swam through his body, reinforcing bone, strengthening muscle, rewiring neural pathways. The pain was incredible. Lisa had warned him, but nothing could have prepared him for this. It felt like his body was being torn apart and rebuilt at the same time. Every nerve screamed. Every muscle burned. His mind retreated into darkness just to escape the agony. When he finally woke up, everything was different. The ceiling above him looked sharper, clearer. He could see tiny cracks in the concrete that would have been invisible before. He could hear Lisa breathing across the room, hear her heartbeat, hear the blood flowing through her veins. He sat up. The movement was faster than he intended. One moment he was lying down, the next he was standing. His body responded to thoughts with incredible speed. He looked at his hands. They looked the same, but he could feel the power in them. "The strength, how do you feel?" Lisa asked. Ryan considered the question. How did he feel? Different, changed. His thoughts moved faster than before. He could process information almost instantly. When he looked at Lisa, his brain automatically assessed her as a threat. Non-dangerous, no weapons. Weak. The thought disturbed him. He had known Lisa for years. She was a friend, but his enhanced mind saw her only as a potential target. "I feel strong," he said carefully, clear-headed, but strange. "Like I'm seeing the world through different eyes." "That's normal," Lisa said. "Your brain is adjusting to the enhanced sensory input. It will take a few days to adapt fully. Meanwhile, we need to run some tests." The tests revealed that Ryan was now 5 times stronger than before. His reflexes were twice as fast. His senses were enhanced across the board. He could see farther, hear better, smell things a normal human couldn't detect. His mind processed tactical information with computer-like efficiency. He was no longer entirely human. He was something new, something dangerous. Over the next 2 weeks, the other volunteers went through the same procedure. Some adapted well, others struggled. 3 subjects had to be removed from the program when they showed signs of severe psychological problems, but most survived the transformation. They trained together in underground facilities, learning to use their new abilities, learning to work as a team, learning to be weapons. Lieutenant Amy Foster was the fastest flyer Lisa had ever seen. The enhancements gave her reflexes that bordered on precognition. She could react to threats before her conscious mind even registered them. In simulator battles, she shot down enemy fighters with almost casual ease. Colonel Nathan Price was the tactical genius. His enhanced brain could analyze battle scenarios instantly, calculating probabilities and outcomes faster than any computer. He saw patterns that others missed. He found weaknesses where none seemed to exist. They were ready. Earth's monsters forged in laboratories beneath the mountains, waiting for their chance to show the Krell what happens when humanity stops playing nice. The call came 6 weeks after the first procedures. The Krell were attacking Europa Station, humanity's last major stronghold in the outer solar system. Every available ship was being sent to defend it, including 200 enhanced soldiers who the enemy had never seen before. Ryan stood in the transport bay with his unit. They wore special armor designed for their enhanced bodies. They carried weapons that would break a normal person's arms from the recoil. They were humanity's last desperate gamble. "Listen up," Ryan said to his team. "The Krell think they've won. They think humans are weak, helpless, ready to die. We're going to teach them different. We're going to show them what monsters look like." His soldiers nodded. They understood. They were no longer fighting to save themselves. They were fighting to hurt the enemy, to make the aliens pay for every human life they had taken. The transport launched toward Europa, toward battle, toward the moment when the Krell would learn that 3 billion deaths had a price, and that price was measured in blood and terror and nightmares made flesh. The Krell fleet arrived at Europa Station expecting an easy victory. They had destroyed 37 human colonies. This would be number 38. Their commander, a massive alien standing 9 feet tall with natural armor plates covering his body, watched the human station on his screens. So small, so fragile, so soon to be dead. The Krell had learned that humans broke easily. A few bombardments, some dead civilians, and they surrendered. It was almost disappointing how weak they were. The commander thought this species had potential when they first encountered them. But 3 years of war had proven otherwise. Humans were soft, afraid, born to lose. He gave the order to begin the attack. Krell warships moved forward, weapons charging. The human defense fleet scrambled to intercept, but they were outnumbered 3-1. The battle would be over in hours, maybe minutes. What the Krell commander didn't know was that 5 stealth shuttles had already slipped past his sensor net. Inside those shuttles, Ryan Bell and his enhanced soldiers waited in the dark. They wore suits designed to mask their heat signatures. They breathed recycled air. They didn't move, didn't speak, just waited like hunters in the shadows. The shuttles attached to the Krell flagship's hull with barely a whisper. Magnetic clamps locked on. Cutting torches began burning through the armor. The Krell sensors never noticed. They were too focused on the human fleet ahead to watch their own ship. Ryan was first through the breach. He moved into the Krell ship with his weapon ready. The interior was designed for beings much larger than humans. Corridor stretched high above his head. The air was thick and hot, uncomfortable for humans but perfect for the cold-blooded Krell. His enhanced senses painted a picture of the ship's interior. He could hear Krell warriors moving 3 corridors away, could smell their distinct odor, like burning metal and ozone, could feel the vibrations of the ship's engines through the floor. His tactical brain processed all this information instantly, building a mental map. Teams 1 and 2 take the port engine room. Ryan ordered through his comm. Team 3, starboard engines. 4 and 5, you're with me. We're heading for the bridge. The teams split up. They moved through the ship like ghosts. When they encountered Krell warriors, the aliens died before they could raise an alarm. Enhanced human strength meant that even without weapons, the soldiers could tear through the Krell's natural armor. With weapons, the battles lasted seconds. Ryan reached a junction and heard footsteps. A Krell patrol, 6 warriors coming his way. He signaled his team to wait. The aliens rounded the corner and found themselves facing 2 humans. They raised their weapons, but they were too slow. Far too slow, Ryan moved. His enhanced body crossed 15 feet in less than a second. He grabbed the first Krell's weapon and twisted it away, breaking the alien's arm in the process. His teammate shot 2 more. Ryan killed the 4th with his bare hands, his enhanced strength letting him crush the alien's armored throat. The last 2 tried to run. They didn't make it 5 steps. The whole fight took 7 seconds. The Krell never even got a shot off. "This is too easy," one of Ryan's soldiers said. His name was Kenny Brooks, a former Marine who had lost his entire unit at the Battle of Titan. "They're not ready for us," Ryan replied. "They expect normal humans, slow, weak. They've never fought anyone who could match their strength before." They continued toward the bridge. More Krell died. More alarms failed to sound. The enhanced humans moved with deadly efficiency, their training and enhancements combining to create perfect killing machines. On the bridge, the Krell commander finally realized something was wrong. Internal sensors showed disturbances throughout his ship. Patrols going silent. Systems failing. Something was inside his flagship. "Send security teams to investigate," he ordered, "and get me a visual on whatever is causing this." The security footage showed humans. Normal-looking humans in combat armor. But they moved wrong. Too fast, too strong. One camera caught a human soldier lifting a Krell warrior over his head and throwing him 20 feet down a corridor. Another showed a human running along a wall, defying gravity to avoid weapons fire. "What are they?" the Krell commander whispered. He got his answer moments later when the bridge doors exploded inward. Ryan and his team stormed through the smoke. The Krell bridge crew reached for weapons. None of them made it. Ryan crossed the bridge in 3 long strides and grabbed the commander by his armored throat. The alien was nearly twice his size, but Ryan's enhanced strength let him lift the commander off the ground with one hand. "You made a mistake," Ryan said. His voice was calm, cold. "You pushed us too far, killed too many. Now you get to see what happens when humans stop holding back." The commander struggled, but it was useless. His armor meant nothing against Ryan's grip. He could feel his throat slowly crushing, could see death in the human's eyes. "Tell your fleet to retreat," Ryan ordered, "or I kill you and everyone on this ship. Then I hunt down your other ships one by one." The commander hesitated. Krell did not retreat. They were warriors, conquerors. They never ran from inferior species. Ryan squeezed harder. "Choose quickly," the commander gave the order. The Krell fleet, confused and uncertain, began pulling back. For the first time in the entire war, they retreated without achieving their objective. For the first time, humans had made them afraid. Ryan dropped the commander and stepped back. "Remember this moment. Remember that humans can be monsters when we need to be. Tell your leaders. Tell your people. The war just changed. The enhanced soldiers withdrew to their shuttles. They left the Krell commander alive, which was the point. Dead enemies can't spread fear. But an enemy who survives to tell stories of unstoppable human warriors, that was a weapon all its own. Back at Europa Station, Commander Jake Morrison watched the Krell fleet retreat. His tactical officer stared at the screens in disbelief. "Sir, they're leaving. The Krell are actually leaving." Jake had received classified briefings about Project Reaper, but seeing the results was different. He wondered what kind of soldiers could board a Krell flagship and take it over with just a handful of troops. What kind of humans could make the Krell afraid? Monsters, he thought. We created monsters, but monsters that were on humanity's side. Monsters that might just turn the tide of this war. On Earth, President Helen Carter received the news with mixed feelings. Yes, the mission was a success. Yes, they had proven that enhanced soldiers could fight the Krell effectively, but at what cost? She read Dr. Monroe's latest report. Already some of the enhanced soldiers were showing signs of psychological stress, difficulty sleeping, aggressive behavior, trouble relating to normal humans. Ryan Bell's psychological evaluation was particularly concerning. The report noted that he showed reduced empathy, increased aggression, and a tendency to view other humans as either assets or obstacles. He was becoming exactly what they had created him to be, a weapon, a monster, but a necessary monster. Because the alternative was extinction, Helen approved the expansion of Project Reaper. More volunteers, more procedures, more enhanced soldiers. The war was far from over, but for the first time in 3 years humanity had hope. Dark hope, bought with humanity's soul, but hope nonetheless. In his quarters aboard the transport returning to Earth, Ryan lay in his bunk and stared at the ceiling. He tried to remember how he felt before the enhancements, tried to recall the person he used to be, but the memories seemed distant now, like they belonged to someone else. He knew he was changing, could feel his mind shifting, his thoughts becoming colder and more calculated. He looked at normal humans now and saw only their weakness, their vulnerability. Part of him wanted to protect them. But another part, a growing part, felt only contempt. He wondered how long before the second part won, how long before he stopped caring about the people he was supposed to be saving, how long before he became a monster in truth as well as name. But then he thought about the Krell commander's face, the fear in those alien eyes, the retreat of an enemy that had never retreated before. He thought about the colonies that might be saved because of what he and his team had done. Maybe becoming a monster was worth it. Maybe losing his humanity was a price he could pay if it meant others got to keep theirs. Maybe that was the only victory humans could hope for anymore. Not winning while staying good, but winning by becoming worse than the enemy. Ryan closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but sleep didn't come easily anymore. Another thing the enhancements had taken from him. Another piece of humanity stripped away in the name of survival. 6 months passed since Europa Station. 6 months of humanity pushing back against the Krell. 6 months of victories built on the backs of enhanced soldiers who were slowly forgetting what it meant to be human. Lieutenant Amy Foster sat in the cockpit of her fighter, waiting for launch clearance. Around her, 11 other enhanced pilots prepared for battle. They called themselves Wraith Squadron because they moved like ghosts through space. The Krell had learned to fear them, which gave Amy a grim satisfaction. She tried to remember when she had last felt anything other than satisfaction at killing the enemy. Joy, sadness, love, fear, all those emotions seemed to have faded like old photographs. The enhancements had taken them, replaced them with cold efficiency and tactical thinking. Sometimes she wondered if that was such a bad thing. Emotions hurt. Love meant you had something to lose. Fear meant you hesitated. Better to be cold. Better to be a weapon. All fighters, you are cleared for launch, Control said. Amy's fighter shot from the carrier bay. The acceleration would have knocked a normal human unconscious. She barely noticed. Her enhanced body handled the G-forces easily, while her modified brain processed flight data faster than the ship's computer. The battle unfolded around her. Krell cruisers versus human fighters. It should have been a mismatch. The cruisers were massive, heavily armed, nearly indestructible. But Wraith Squadron moved too fast. They dodged fire that should have hit them, seemed to know where the enemy would shoot before the shots were fired. Amy selected a target and fired. Her missiles hit the cruiser's weak point, the spot where shield generators connected to the power core. The ship exploded. She moved on to the next target without pausing. Kill, move, repeat. It was almost mechanical. Wraith Leader, you've got 3 bandits on your tail, her wingman called. Amy didn't worry. She pulled a maneuver that would tear a normal fighter apart. The pursuing Krell ships couldn't match her turn. 2 collided, trying to follow. The third got a face full of her weapons. In 30 minutes, Wraith Squadron destroyed 40 Krell cruisers. They lost nobody. It was becoming routine. After the battle, Amy returned to the carrier and filed her report. The casualty numbers barely registered. 40 enemy ships destroyed, thousands of Krell dead. She felt nothing. No triumph. No remorse. Just empty efficiency. Colonel Nathan Price found her in the mess hall later. He looked tired, which was concerning. Enhanced soldiers didn't get tired easily. If Nathan looked tired, something was wrong. "We need to talk," he said. They found a private room. Nathan sat down heavily and rubbed his face. The gesture seemed strange coming from him. Too human. Too vulnerable. "I'm losing it," Nathan said bluntly. "My connection to normal people. To humanity. I look at regular soldiers now and I can't understand them. Their concerns seem trivial. Their fears meaningless. Their very existence feels temporary and fragile." Amy understood. She felt the same way. "We were warned this might happen. Warned, yes. But experiencing it is different." Nathan looked at his hands. "I used to love my family. My wife and daughters. They died on the moon base. I remember their faces clearly. But I can't remember why I loved them. The emotion is gone. It's like reading about someone else's family in a history book." "Maybe that's better," Amy said. "Love is pain. Missing them hurts. Better to feel nothing." "Is it though?" Nathan asked. "If we don't care about people anymore, what are we fighting for? If we're just weapons that happen to be shaped like humans, what's the point?" Amy didn't have an answer. She had stopped asking those questions months ago. It was easier to just fight. Easier to be what they had made her. Nathan stood to leave, then paused. "Captain Ryan Bell is getting worse. Have you noticed?" "I've noticed," Amy admitted. Ryan commanded the ground forces now. He was brilliant at it, also increasingly unstable. His last psychological evaluation showed severe empathy reduction and increased aggression toward non-enhanced humans. "Dr. Monroe wants to pull him from active duty," Nathan said. "Run more tests. Maybe reverse some of the enhancements." "He won't go willingly," Amy said. "No, he won't." They both knew what that meant. Ryan had become too valuable to lose, but too dangerous to leave unchecked. The military's perfect weapon with a personality that was slowly breaking down. Meanwhile, on the reclaimed colony world of New Harmony, Ryan and his ground forces were winning a battle that should have been impossible. The Krell had established a major base here with 30,000 warriors. Earth High Command estimated it would take months to retake the planet if it could be done at all. Ryan took 500 enhanced soldiers and did it in 72 hours. The battle was brutal. Krell warriors were tough, experienced, well-armed, but they had never faced anything like Ryan's troops. The enhanced humans didn't sleep, didn't slow down, didn't stop. They hit the Krell base from 12 different directions simultaneously. They fought through the day, through the night, through the next day without pause. Kenny Brooks led a team through the Krell supply depot. They moved from building to building, clearing each one with deadly efficiency. The Krell tried to organize a defense, but the humans were too fast, too coordinated, too ruthless. "Building 7 clear," Kenny reported. 43 enemy casualties. "No losses on our side." "Good," Ryan's voice came back. "Move to Building 8. Command wants this sector secured by nightfall." Kenny looked at his team. They had been fighting for 50 hours straight. Normal soldiers would be exhausted. His enhanced troops showed no signs of fatigue. They just kept going, like machines that happened to be made of flesh. One of his soldiers, a young woman named Katie Wells, killed a Krell warrior with her bare hands. She snapped its neck with casual efficiency, then immediately moved to the next target. Her face showed no emotion. No rage, no fear, no excitement. Just cold focus. Kenny wondered what Katie had been like before the enhancements. Happy, sad? Did she laugh at jokes? Cry at movies? He couldn't remember. Couldn't remember what any of them had been like as normal humans. Those people were gone now, replaced by weapons that wore their faces. The battle ended on the 3rd day. 30,000 Krell warriors dead. Human casualties 47. The numbers were staggering, impossible, but they were real. Ryan stood in the ruins of the Krell Command Center and felt nothing. No victory, no relief, no satisfaction, just emptiness. He knew he should feel something. Normal people felt things when they won, but he wasn't normal anymore. Wasn't even sure he was people. President Helen Carter watched the victory reports from her bunker. New Harmony reclaimed. Krell forces destroyed. Minimal human losses. From a military standpoint, it was perfect. From a human standpoint, it was terrifying. She called Dr. Monroe. "Tell me honestly, how many of our enhanced soldiers are psychologically stable?" Lisa hesitated. "Define stable. Don't play games with me, doctor. How many are still basically human?" 43% show severe psychological issues. Another 30% have moderate problems. The rest are functional, but... Lisa trailed off. But what? But they're changing, slowly losing their connection to humanity. It's not that they're going crazy. It's that they're becoming something else. Something that looks human but thinks differently, feels differently, maybe doesn't feel at all. Helen closed her eyes. "We're winning the war." "Yes," Lisa agreed, "but losing our souls in the process." "Yes." Helen thought about the 10,000 enhanced soldiers in service now. 10,000 people who volunteered to save humanity by becoming something other than human. Heroes or monsters? Maybe both. Maybe it didn't matter. "Continue the program," Helen ordered. "But start working on a reversal process. Something we can use after the war ends." "If it can be reversed," Lisa said. "Madam President, some of these changes might be permanent. These soldiers might never be able to come back from what they've become." "Then we owe them everything," Helen said. "They gave up their humanity for us. The least we can do is make sure their sacrifice meant something." After the call ended, Helen sat alone in the dark. She thought about the 3 billion dead, the colonies lost, the people who died before humanity changed itself. She thought about the enhanced soldiers who were winning the war by becoming weapons. She thought about the price of survival. Outside her bunker, Earth continued. People lived, worked, loved, hoped. They didn't know what was being done in their name. Didn't know about the monsters fighting in the dark. Didn't know that their salvation came at the cost of 10,000 souls. Maybe that was better. Maybe they should never know. Maybe that burden should rest only on the shoulders of those who made the choice, those who gave the orders, those who volunteered to become nightmares. Helen picked up the latest casualty report and began to read. More numbers, more names, more lives that ended so others could continue. The war was turning in humanity's favor, but the victory tasted like ashes. The war changed completely over the next year. Humanity stopped retreating and started advancing. Colony after colony was reclaimed. Krell forces found themselves fighting a desperate defensive campaign against an enemy that refused to die, refused to slow down, refused to be anything less than terrifying. The Krell home system received reports that read like horror stories. Human warriors who could survive in vacuum. Soldiers whose bones were reinforced with materials stronger than steel. Fighters who seemed to know where attacks would come from before they happened. The prey species had transformed into predators, and the Krell didn't know how to handle it. In a grand chamber on the Krell homeworld, the High Council met to discuss the human problem. These were the eldest and wisest of their kind, beings who had lived for centuries and conquered dozens of species. None of them had ever encountered a situation like this. "The humans adapt," the first counselor said. His voice carried the weight of age and authority. "We break them, they rebuild stronger. We kill them, more appear. We push them to extinction, they become monsters. How do we fight an enemy that grows stronger through suffering?" "We commit the reserve fleets," suggested the War Master. "Overwhelm them with numbers." "We tried numbers," another counselor replied. "They have soldiers who don't tire, don't fear, don't break. Numbers mean nothing against such enemies." The debate continued for hours. Some argued for total war, throwing everything the Krell had at Earth. Others suggested negotiation, though the idea of asking prey species for peace was humiliating. A few even whispered about retreat, abandoning this war entirely and finding easier targets. None of them noticed the small human device attached to the chamber's ceiling. A listening device planted weeks ago by a team of enhanced soldiers who had infiltrated the capital city without being detected. Everything the council said was being transmitted back to Earth. President Helen Carter listened to the recording with satisfaction. The Krell were scared. More than scared, they were uncertain. For the first time in their long history, they didn't know if they could win. "We have them on the defensive," Defense Minister Craig Palmer said. Intelligence suggests their military is stretched thin. Most of their fleet is tied up guarding their home system. If we strike now, we could end this war. Or start a bloodbath that kills millions more, Helen replied. The Krell are dangerous when cornered. We all are. Then what do you suggest? Helen thought about it. They could win this war through continued fighting. Keep pushing, keep killing, keep grinding the Krell down until they had nothing left. But that path led to more death on both sides. More soldiers lost to the enhancements. More humans transformed into weapons. We give them a way out, Helen said. Offer terms. Immediate ceasefire, reparations for the colonies they destroyed, and a promise to never attack human space again. If they refuse, then we show them what we're really capable of. You mean Project Nightmare, Craig said quietly. Project Nightmare was the military's contingency plan. A strike force of the most enhanced soldiers, the ones who had given up the most humanity, sent directly to the Krell homeworld. Their mission would be simple: kill the High Council, decapitate the Krell leadership in their own throne room, prove that nowhere was safe, that humanity could reach anyone anywhere. It's our final card, Helen said, the one we play only if we must. But the Krell need to know it exists, need to understand that continuing this war means extinction for them. The message was sent through diplomatic channels. Earth offered peace with specific terms. Attached to the offer was intelligence footage from the Krell capital, proving that human soldiers had been inside their most secure facility without being detected. The implication was clear: we can kill you in your sleep if we choose to. The Krell High Council received the message with shock and fear. Humans had been inside their capital. Could have killed them all. The security breach was bad enough, but the psychological impact was worse. Their home, their sanctuary, had been violated. They're offering us a way to survive, the first counselor said. We should take it. It's surrender, the War Master protested. The Krell do not surrender. The Krell also do not go extinct, another counselor replied. Look at what we're facing. The humans we thought were weak have become something else. Something that frightens me. They made themselves into monsters to fight us. What happens if we push them further? What new horrors will they create? The debate raged for days. Pride versus survival. Honor versus extinction. In the end, survival won. The Krell agreed to a ceasefire while they negotiated terms. On Earth, the news was met with cautious celebration. The fighting had stopped. No more colonies burning. No more ships dying. No more 3 billion deaths piling up like cordwood. People danced in the streets, laughed, cried, embraced. The war might finally be ending. But in the enhanced soldiers' barracks, the mood was different. These warriors had been fighting for so long that peace felt wrong, uncomfortable, like a song ending on the wrong note. Ryan Bell sat in his quarters and tried to understand why everyone was so happy. The war was paused, but the Krell still existed. The enemy still lived. The job wasn't finished. His enhanced mind couldn't comprehend celebrating an incomplete victory. He looked at his reflection in the mirror. On the surface, he looked the same as before the enhancements. Same face, same eyes. But something was different. Something invisible. The person behind those eyes wasn't Ryan Bell anymore. That man had died somewhere between Europa and New Harmony, replaced by something that wore his name but felt nothing, cared about nothing except the mission. A knock came at his door. Come in, he said. Amy Foster entered. She looked as uncomfortable as he felt. They're talking about deactivating us, she said without preamble. Deactivating? The program. Project Reaper. Now that the war's ending, they want to shut it down. Reverse the enhancements where possible. Retire the soldiers who can't be reversed. Ryan considered this. Being normal again. Feeling things again. Missing his family again? The idea should appeal to him. Should make him happy. But he felt nothing. Less than nothing. The thought of going back to being weak, slow, vulnerable, it disgusted him. What do you want? He asked Amy. She sat down heavily. I don't know. The old me would have wanted to be normal again. Would have jumped at the chance to feel emotions, to cry, to laugh, to love. But I'm not her anymore. That person is gone. I'm just a weapon that happens to look like her. Same, Ryan admitted. I remember who I was, but I don't understand him. Don't understand why anything mattered to him. Family, friends, hope, dreams, it all seems pointless now. They sat in silence for a long moment. Two monsters in human form trying to remember why being human was supposed to be better. Colonel Nathan Price committed suicide yesterday, Amy said quietly. Ryan felt nothing. He knew he should feel something. Sadness, shock, grief. Nathan had been a friend, but the emotion just wasn't there. Why? His psych evaluation said he couldn't reconcile what he'd become with what he used to be. He looked at normal humans and saw them as a different species. Looked at himself and saw a monster. He left a note saying he'd rather die as a human than live as whatever he had become. Ryan thought about Nathan's choice. It made sense in a way. Nathan had always been more connected to his humanity than most enhanced soldiers. Always struggled harder against the changes. Maybe death was better than becoming something you hated. Are they going to offer us that choice? Ryan asked. Reversal or retirement? Retirement means execution, Amy said bluntly. They won't say it that way, but that's what it is. Too dangerous to leave us alive if we can't integrate back into society. Too risky to have weapons walking around that might go rogue. And reversal might not work, might leave us worse off than before. Yes. They sat with that knowledge, veterans of a war they had won by giving up everything that made life worth living. Heroes who couldn't come home because home didn't exist for them anymore. I miss fear, Amy said suddenly. I know that sounds crazy, but I miss being afraid. Fear meant I had something to lose. Now I have nothing. I am nothing. Just a thing that kills efficiently. Ryan understood. He missed anger. Real anger. Not the cold fury that fueled him in battle. He missed love. He missed sadness. He missed the messy, painful, beautiful emotions that made humans human. Outside the barracks, Earth celebrated peace. Inside, the soldiers who made that peace possible sat in the dark and wondered if the price had been too high. Wondered if saving humanity meant anything when you were no longer human yourself. President Helen Carter signed the preliminary peace treaty with a heavy heart. The war was ending. Humanity had survived, but the cost would haunt her forever. 10,000 volunteers who gave up their souls. 3 billion dead before the monsters were unleashed. A species that learned it could become anything, including nightmares if pushed far enough. She thought about the enhanced soldiers and what would become of them. Some might be helped. Some might adjust. Some might find a way to live with what they had become, but others, like Nathan Price, would choose death over monstrosity. And she couldn't blame them. The war was over. Humanity had won. But looking at what they had done to achieve that victory, Helen wondered if anyone could truly call it winning. The peace treaty was signed in Geneva, in a chamber specially built for the occasion. Representatives from Earth and the Krell Collective sat across from each other, either side comfortable with the arrangement. The Krell delegates towered over the human diplomats, their natural armor gleaming under the lights. But they no longer looked confident. They looked wary, afraid. President Helen Carter watched from the gallery as the documents were signed. The war was officially over. No more fighting. No more dying. The Krell agreed to pay reparations, restore destroyed colonies, and withdraw all military forces from human space. In return, Earth agreed not to pursue revenge against the Krell homeworld. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt hollow. 3 billion people were still dead. 10,000 enhanced soldiers were still changed forever. The scars of war would take generations to heal if they ever did. After the ceremony, Helen returned to her office to deal with the hardest decision of her presidency. Project Reaper had to be shut down. The enhanced soldiers had to be dealt with. Dr. Monroe had prepared 3 options. Option 1, attempt reversal procedures on all enhanced soldiers. Success rate estimated at 40%. The other 60% would either die during reversal or be left in a worse state than before. Option 2, allow enhanced soldiers to remain as they were but isolate them in special facilities away from normal humans. Essentially imprisonment for the crime of being too dangerous. Option 3, offer voluntary euthanasia to those who wanted it, and forced retirement for those deemed too unstable. All 3 options were terrible. All 3 betrayed the soldiers who had saved humanity. Helen read through the files again, looking for a 4th option that didn't exist. A knock came at her door. Come in. Captain Ryan Bell entered. He moved with that eerie grace all enhanced soldiers had, like a predator pretending to be human. Helen gestured for him to sit. He remained standing. You wanted to see me, Madam President? Helen studied him. He looked tired, though she knew enhanced soldiers didn't get tired easily. His eyes were different from before, colder, more distant, like he was looking at the world from very far away. I wanted to talk to you about the program, Helen said. About what happens now. You're shutting us down, Ryan said. It wasn't a question. The war is over. We don't need weapons anymore. We need people. Civilians. Citizens who can live in peace. And you don't think we can do that? Helen chose her words carefully. I think you've sacrificed more than anyone should have to. I think you've become something that doesn't fit in peacetime society. I think you deserve better than what we can offer you. Ryan laughed, but there was no humor in it. We knew what we were signing up for. Knew we might not come back as ourselves. We did it anyway because someone had to. Because 3 billion deaths deserved an answer. And you gave them that answer, Helen said. You and the other enhanced soldiers. You turned the tide. You saved humanity. But now we need to figure out what comes next. What comes next is you put us down like rabid dogs, Ryan said bluntly. Or lock us away where we can't scare the normal people. Or maybe you try your reversal procedure and hope we survive. Those are the only options, aren't they? Helen didn't deny it. I'm sorry. Don't be. We made our choice. We knew it was one way. But I have a request. Name it. Let us choose, Ryan said. Reversal, isolation, or ending it on our own terms. Don't force anything. We've given up enough. Let us keep this one last piece of control over our lives. Helen nodded slowly. I can do that. I can give you all that choice. Thank you. Ryan turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I don't regret it. Becoming this. Losing myself. It was worth it to stop the Krell. To save the people I used to care about, even if I can't remember how to care anymore. After Ryan left, Helen sat alone and cried. She cried for the soldiers who gave up their humanity. She cried for the 3 billion dead. She cried for a species that learned it could survive anything, even itself. The choice was offered to all 10,000 enhanced soldiers. Some chose reversal, willing to risk death for a chance at normalcy. Others chose isolation, preferring to live as monsters rather than die as humans. A few, like Colonel Nathan Price before them, chose the third option. Ryan spent 3 days thinking about his choice. He visited Dr. Monroe and learned about the reversal procedure. 40% success rate, 60% chance of death or worse damage. Not great odds. He visited the isolation facility where enhanced soldiers who chose that option would live. It was comfortable enough. Private rooms, training facilities, everything they needed. But it was still a prison, just one with nice walls. He thought about the third option. Quick, painless, permanent, an end to the emptiness. An escape from being a weapon without a war to fight. On the 4th day, Ryan made his decision. He requested reversal. Amy Foster found him in the medical bay, waiting for the procedure. You're really doing this? She asked. I am, Ryan said. I know the odds aren't good, but I'd rather die trying to be human again than live as whatever I am now. I chose isolation, Amy admitted. I can't go back. Don't even want to. Being human hurt too much. Better to be this, Ryan understood. Everyone dealt with the changes differently. Some wanted to fight their way back to humanity. Others accepted what they had become. Neither choice was wrong. Good luck, Amy said. I hope you make it. Thanks. And Amy? For what it's worth, you're still human. Changed, yes. Different, yes. But still human where it counts, Amy smiled sadly. I wish I believed that. The reversal procedure took 18 hours. Dr. Monroe and her team worked carefully, trying to undo years of genetic modification. They used targeted viruses to rewrite Ryan's DNA back to normal. Nanobots removed the enhancements from his muscles, bones, and nervous system. It was delicate work, dangerous work, work that could kill him at any moment. Ryan floated in medically induced unconsciousness while his body transformed again. This time, instead of becoming stronger, he became weaker. Instead of gaining abilities, he lost them. His enhanced senses faded. His superhuman strength drained away. His tactical mind slowed to normal human speed. When he finally woke up 3 days later, everything hurt. His body ached like he had been beaten. His thoughts moved slowly, clumsily, like wading through mud. His senses were dull and weak. He felt vulnerable in a way he hadn't felt in years, but he also felt something else. Something he had almost forgotten. He felt fear. Real, genuine fear that he might die. And beneath the fear, something else stirred. Hope. Tiny, fragile, barely there, but real. Dr. Monroe checked his vital signs. "Welcome back," she said. "You're one of the lucky ones." "The procedure worked. How do I know?" Ryan asked. His voice was hoarse from disuse. "Try to remember someone you loved. Really remember them. Not just the facts, but the feeling." Ryan thought about his sister. Her name was Claire. She died at Mars Colony. For years he had remembered her face, but not why he loved her. Now slowly, carefully, the emotion returned. He remembered her laugh, her kindness, the way she always believed in him, and he felt grief. "Deep, painful, beautiful grief, I remember," he whispered. Tears ran down his face. He hadn't cried in 3 years. "I remember loving her. I remember missing her." "Then it worked," Lisa said gently. "You're human again." The recovery took months. Ryan had to relearn how to be normal, how to live without superhuman abilities, how to feel emotions without being overwhelmed, how to be weak and vulnerable and afraid and still keep going. Not everyone was as lucky. Of the 4,000 soldiers who chose reversal, only 38% survived. The others died during the procedure or woke up with severe brain damage. Ryan attended memorial services for friends who gambled on humanity and lost. The soldiers who chose isolation moved to their facilities. They lived there quietly, training, existing, but never quite fitting in anywhere else. Amy visited Ryan once after his recovery. They barely recognized each other. She was still enhanced, still dangerous, still a weapon. He was human again, weak but whole. "I'm glad it worked for you," she said. "Truly." "I wish it could have worked for everyone," Ryan replied. "I wish none of us had to make this choice. But we did. And we'd do it again if we had to. That's what makes us human, even those of us who aren't anymore. The choice. The sacrifice. The willingness to become monsters to protect the people we love." 20 years passed. Earth rebuilt. The colonies were restored. The 3 billion dead were remembered in monuments and memorials. Children grew up hearing stories about the war, about the brave soldiers who gave up their humanity to save everyone else. Ryan lived a quiet life. He got a job teaching history at a university. He married a woman who understood his nightmares and his scars. He visited the isolation facility every month to see the soldiers who couldn't come back. He never forgot what he had been, what he had done, what it cost. The Krell became partners in a galactic coalition. They never threatened humanity again. They taught their children about the war as a cautionary tale. Never push a desperate species too far. Never assume weakness means helpless. Never forget that humans, when cornered, become something terrible. On the anniversary of the war's end, Ryan stood at the Central Memorial in Geneva. The names of 3 billion dead were carved into black stone that stretched for miles. At the center was another memorial,